Hey, what's going on, everybody? Kr0nus is back, and I'm here with.
Papa Bear, and this week we're going to have a quick discussion about the Olympics in general, and we had kind of a conversation offline about it, and I thought it might be something worth making a whole episode of.
Hey, it's me, Rasan. I don't know, man. Huge hole in my,
Yeah.
understanding. My fellow Americans.
Papa Bear here.
As long as whatever you're doing doesn't hurt anyone else, I don't care.
Different perspective of what an interesting topic is than I would assume.
This is Balanced Exchange.
But first, I guess, what you drinking?
I am drinking, because today is National IPA Day, which is an Indian Pale Ale Day. So I'm drinking Super Cluster by Lagunitas, and it's a pretty good IPA that, it's very drinkable, even though it's 8%. But, for me, it's drinkable, because I drink really strong beers. So, yeah. What do you got, man?
Not doing an IPA because I can't do that right now. So I'm still sticking to my keto, trying to really hit it pretty heavy. I know that it's gonna stop my ketone generation because the alcohol is gonna stop it. But yeah. I'll try to do a 2 BHB dose day tomorrow and try to get me right back into it. But I'm gonna start with the black cherry lemonade from Truly.
I ran out of Truly's yesterday.
No, that's sad.
Yeah.
I showed you the giant box that I got from Costco, right? It's like, it's so many.
That's what I get all the time. Yeah.
I was like, I think I might have a problem.
Yeah. They are so good, though.
Mm-hmm.
Incoming.
What's in the dishwasher? I mean, in the washing machine.
Oh, nice.
Are they Lego?
No, it's my headphones.
Oh. Hope they're waterproof.
We'll see how waterproof they really are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're the Bose Free, I think. Yeah, they're pretty good. So I've had to go through quite a few of the sport headphones because I sweat a lot when I'm PTing, and these are the first that have lasted more than maybe a month or two. So I don't know. Maybe they made it through that.
Hopefully, yeah. What do I have? Well, I have a couple of sets of Jabra Active Elites, and they last for a long time. But I shower with them, and so they last for maybe 6 months. So, but they're under warranty. I need to send them back so they can send me a replacement. But yeah, and right now I'm using a cheapy monoprice pair in the shower because I'm like, if these break, I really don't give a fuck because they're like $20. So. Gotcha.
Yeah, I just use it's really a Echo Flex, and then I just Bluetooth connect one of those waterproof speakers and put that in the shower.
Well, I do that too, but K-Mac doesn't like me. Well, she doesn't like listening to the books that I'm listening to when I'm in the shower when she's in bed, so I put the headphones in. So, all right, what are you reading?
Man? So right now I am reading The New Jim Crow.
That's what I thought you were reading. Yeah.
Yeah. Based on the other conversation we were having during the pre-show. Author is, I'm trying to think of the name.
Something Alexander?
Michelle Alexander.
Yeah.
Got that going right now, and that's gonna, I think, probably help make me feel more prepared to have that conversation for probably our next episode. I think I'll be done by then.
Yeah, it's a really good book, and it's one of those things, there's a lot of issues in that book that they tackle and facts that I was unaware of before reading the book, and I was just like, damn.
Well, and there's a few, mostly I'm picking up what she's putting down. There's a couple of moments I've been like, well, if you said this earlier, and then you're saying this other argument now, those two can't both work. So, I mean, I get that sometimes that's the way logic works, but, and it could be different for different locations and areas and scenarios. I was like, but if you're making that the rule that you're basing some parts of your book on, it's going to be a hard thing to keep up with. So
yeah.
There's a couple of moments like that, but it's not terrible as far as the logical stuff that goes along with it.
Cool. Good. I'm glad you're reading it. My book is not heavy at all. I'm reading it. It's Nolan by Michael J. Sullivan. I think it just came out on Audible. It's the Rise and Fall series, book 1, and he's the same author that did the Rhaenyra Revelation. And I read book 1 of that, and I read some other books, and then I picked up this book. But I need to go back and finish that series after I finish this one. But I didn't know that when he writes his series, he writes them all at once, and then he drops them year after year after year. So if he needs to go back and I guess change things over a year, he'll do that. But the whole story's already done, so you don't have to wait like 10 years. That's pretty cool.
Interesting. When you said Nolan, I don't know this story series or the author, but like the first thing that came to mind was like, it's a sports book on Nolan Ryan. Mm-mm. Like that was the first thing that came out. I was like, that doesn't seem like it'd be in your wheelhouse.
Well, it's spelled Nolyn. So I used to be a sports guy, but just not so much anymore.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess this is where the disclaimer comes in.
So at this point in watching our videos, you may or may not know that I am an active duty United States Marine. And I've been doing this for 20 plus years, so I know that it's really important for me to make sure to get this out there. If it's your first time watching this, please stick around and make sure you understand the disclaimer. If you've watched a whole lot of our episodes so far, feel free to go ahead and jump ahead to the new content. So what I need to talk about today is that I am not authorized and have no way of being approved to speak on behalf of the Marine Corps. So any opinion that I give or any concept that I discuss today is the position and the opinion of just me, myself, just a man who has a bachelor's degree in political science and a master's degree in leadership and organizational management, and has spent my whole life looking at government structures and social contracts and how these things are supposed to work, what the philosophies and things behind them are, and read a lot of books on that kind of stuff. And it's definitely one of my personal and key passions. And so when you hear me maybe give a position or a concept on something, that is only my own position. I am not a public affairs officer for the Marine Corps. I am in no way giving what the Marine Corps' official position on anything would be. And honestly, a lot of the topics we're going to cover here, I'm pretty sure the Marine Corps doesn't have a particular position on. So if you do have any questions about what the Marine Corps' policy on certain things could be, you can definitely research that and find those out, or leave a comment or send us a message if you can get a hold of us somehow. We can maybe be able to answer those questions for you. So with that said, let's get you back to this week's content.
And we're back.
Yeah.
So since we're sort of talking about sports, but not really, now we'll talk about sports, but for real.
Really. Yeah. So the first thing that, like we talked about even just watching them, right? So I have not watched anything for the Olympics. Not at all. Like I have not been getting connected to it. I haven't really, it's weird. Like I usually do. I have not cared at all. Like it just has not been a thing that has been worth the limited amount of time I have to do anything other than like the stuff I'm already doing. So that's been a weird thing for me.
Yeah, I'm definitely not watching it as much as I usually watch like a lot, but this year obviously there's the Corona's going on. I got a young kid now, I'm working and I can't really get out and do things, and I just don't have time, I guess, to watch. But I am watching some events. So
yeah, I haven't kept up with any, and like I heard some people saying like there's not really many online ways, like you have to be watching it on television, like through a regular TV channel.
No, I mean, well, I've been watching a lot of like highlights on YouTube of like the events of like who would like the actual. You can watch the heats and the medal contenders and all that stuff like online. That's what I've been doing, and also on my TV, which there's apps for it, which makes it super easy to like look up all your events.
Yeah, that's what I assumed. I was like, I can't imagine there's not some kind of online way to watch some of the events at least.
I've watched a whole bunch. I can't on YouTube. They're all basically there. If you want to watch, especially when it comes to like the final or for a medal, those are definitely all online. You're probably not going to watch all the heats or anything like that online. But you probably could find it, but it'd be more kind of more difficult to find. But you can find them.
Okay. Yeah, and then I guess so. Like the only thing that hit my like radar at all as far as reporting it to anybody, actually two things. One was that Sky Brown. I don't know if we talked about her once. So she's 12 years old, is from Great Britain, and was in skateboarding. And at 12 years old, she got a bronze medal. So like the youngest medalist for Great Britain ever. And of course, I like immediately told Addison as soon as that popped into myself. I was like, "What? Oh, awesome! She medaled. That's really cool." And I can just imagine her, 3 years now, right, instead of 4. They go to say, but like 3 years from now, competing again and like having had that much more experience and like really like understanding now this competition, like how the Olympics works with everything else she probably had to put up with to do it. I can imagine she'll do pretty well, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. What was the second thing?
I saw a meme.
You saw a meme. Okay.
That was pretty much it. So someone posted in one of the Discords I'm in, like, this is the only moment I've personally connected with in the Olympics so far. And it was a Canadian swimmer who wears glasses and has like a really serious prescription. And she wins this heat. Like she gold medals in this event and like takes her goggles off to like look at the scoreboard.
Yeah.
But like she can't even tell that she watches, like, has no idea. And so it's like this just subtle, super confused look, like I have no idea what's going on right now. And I was like, that's the only moment I've personally connected with for the Olympics so far. I was like, that's kind of funny.
And it's funny because it's like, why don't you just wear contacts? You're wearing goggles anyway. But some people, they don't like wearing contacts, so I get that. I didn't like wearing them until I just got over it. So because I'm super blind.
Enrique was even like, maybe she has prescription goggles, so she was like, all you got to see is your line, and you stay in your lane, and you power through, and you just go fast. And as long as you go fast.
Well, you still got to see the wall coming up. Like I'm so blind to where like, yeah, like seeing the wall coming up. If I'm going like that fast, would be a problem.
Well, I think and I assume it is at that level, right? When I was competing in hurdles, you weren't looking at the hurdle. You were step, 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 jump, right? Yeah. You knew your stride at this step because you've measured your distance so perfectly. So she probably knows exactly when she needs to. That was this number of strokes, this number of kicks. I now kick and turn and push, and there was a wall there. She just knows her stroke that well. I would assume at that level you're at this, it's a rhythm. It's not even a thing where I'm really looking anymore.
It's funny you brought up like the hurdles because Neil deGrasse Tyson was actually breaking down. There was I think it was the 400-meter hurdles, and I think he was a Norwegian guy. He had a really cool, like, almost Viking last name, was like War something. He was pretty dope. And obviously, the American guy, everybody thought that he was going to win. But this other guy, he was like really good. I had no idea. I'm like, he's probably going to lose. And like when he first came out, I was like, damn, this guy's hella fast. And he won. And by a decent margin, and then Neil deGrasse Tyson actually put up a photo and is like, basically the reason why this guy won is because he went up on his left foot over the first hurdle, and the other guy went up on his right foot on the first hurdle, and it means that there was a distance of like 2.5 meters because the other guy used the other foot, and the guy actually won by exactly 2.5 meters. It's like, damn, like that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Name was Karsten Warholm.
Warholm, yeah, that's a pretty dope ass last name.
Yeah. So like that was. So my thing was I was still at a stride for me where I had to alternate legs, and that was like the next goal was to get to a long enough stride between each hurdle to go to it being a 3-stepper. So you're always going over with the exact same leg. So it sounds like maybe what he did was didn't get his stride perfect on the launch, so went over right and then switched, was able to stride out and get left, and that one little mistake was enough to be able to win. That's some serious, because again at that level it's like that one little thing, and that's the difference.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I was thinking about also with the Olympics, like the people think that like people just in general are getting so much more athletic for the Olympics, but it's a combination of yes but no, because yes, people are getting getting more athletic, like they're being able to work out in different ways to obviously advance whatever specific sport they're in, but it's also the vast improvements in technology that are really making a huge difference. Back in I forget what Olympics it was, I always forget which one it was, but it was the Olympics where swimmers were breaking records left and right. Like pretty much all the records fell in like one Olympics, and it came down to this one suit called the laser suit, is the LZR suit, and it basically made you go through the water faster. And so after that, they banned it. They were like, okay, you can't use the suit anymore because it was like a full body suit that even the dudes were wearing, and it's like everything, all the records are broken. So, and then also like with the technology when it comes to shoes, just basic footwear with runners, like if you took an Olympic runner that is like, super competitive, and then put him in shoes from like the 1950s, it would probably knock like a second off of his time. Like at least a second, depending on what event he was in.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, a second depending on the distance you're going, because it might be even more if it was further.
Yeah. And there's like a whole bunch of other things too, of just like the clothing and like now, and also like how they can like with us, like we're both wearing Garmin watches, and so we can actually we can use like the HRV feature, which is the heart rate variability feature, like when you wake up, and it should be able to tell you like when you should rest on a day and when you shouldn't rest on a day, or just use the basic body battery, which is kind of like the same thing, of like knowing when you should be at your peak and like when to peak and stuff like that. And they just didn't have those things back in the day. Like people they use like this sort of word of mouth, like willy-nilly kind of, training situation. But nobody really knew when they were actually fucking tired, and shouldn't train.
Yeah. I mean, and even just coaching concepts too, right? So we've had enough more years of study and enough, like science being able to analyze the run stride and all these other things and be like, oh, hey, I now have tools to be able to analyze while you run to say, hey, we need to work on this part of your stride, which is really great, but every little tweak we can make to make it that much better. There's these high-speed cameras, like to the point where you can capture like the exact little bits of the movement. So just that part of training, you couldn't gather that before. So it totally makes sense to mix it in with the science a little.
Yeah, I'm definitely enjoying like seeing the advances in technology and people just getting better at doing pretty basic things. So.
Did you see the thing where I think it was in the 110-meter sprint where like the one competitor was like, he's from Spain, I think, and he like told the guy who was in front of him and had totally won the race, like, no, keep going. Like he tapped him on the back, like, don't stop, go. Because he stopped early, thinking that was the end line because he couldn't read the signs, and it was marked differently than he was used to training. Did you see that one?
No, I was not aware.
Yeah, so he was. I might have to. Let me look it up. But so he was. Basically, the way the track is marked where he trained in his country was different than it is there for the Olympics, and so he ran his run, and he was crushing the second place guy. Like he's like a good 2 or 3 lengths ahead of him. He's like, he knew, like even the guy who's in second, he's like, this dude crushed me. And he'd stopped maybe, not much, maybe 10 meters at most before it. And he's like yelling and waving him on, like telling him he needs to go. He doesn't understand him because he's speaking Spanish and he's from somewhere else. But he started looking and hearing and seeing him go. He got there, he like put his arm on him and like pushed him forward. And then he got the thing and he ran the rest of it. So he still finished. By like the rules, he crossed the line first. So many people were beating up on the Spanish guy. Like, why did you not just go win? You could have won if you hadn't told him to go.
Because he knows that he didn't really win.
I was like, I would know that he was going to beat me. I knew it. He'd won that race, and it would not have been fair, and I wouldn't have felt like I won. And so, I'm sure Spanish like people who paid for from like the country to like send them there were like, oh, you could have gotten this gold, another gold for us, but. It wouldn't have counted, and he would have known it. And he's like, "There's no way I could do that." So that was one of those moments where you're like, "That's what the Olympics are about: is true, honest competition." Like, I wasn't good enough. I have to get better next year. Next time.
There's also the story of I think they were pole vaulters, where they decided to have a double gold. So they decided to not. Because I think in pole vaulting, correct me if I'm wrong. But if you're pole vaulting, like you have to get to a certain height, and if you both are at the same height, you just keep going. And if somebody fails, then you get it. Or if or the other person can also go and try to match that or go higher than that height. But they decided, nah, like we're not going to do that. They just shared a gold medal. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Interesting. I wonder why. Like, what led to the decision to not push the next height?
Probably because they both know they couldn't have made the next height. It's like
neither of us are going to get that.
Yeah, it's kind of gambling on both ends, right? Because if you miss it, then you lost. So,
I still think, we both got the same height. I have to look at the rules, but if that is it kind of seems like a weird rule because we both got the same height. Neither of us could clear the next height. That seems like that should by default push it. But I guess you're saying if you say I would like to push to the next level, that's where you're now the one pushing it forward. You're like, you can go ahead and try that. I'll have to try if you try, and get it. But like, how do you decide who goes first then? Because that seems like an unfair position to be in. Like, grab me first.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Another thing that's kind of cool about this Olympics is that the actual medals are made out of recycled e-waste.
Recycled what?
E-waste. Electronic waste.
So just like, yeah, so just the, like, out of components from things. Interesting.
Because there's actually gold in most computers. Actually, probably all computers. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's the best conductor. So it's...
Yeah. Pretty interesting. So they're not, I mean, it's not, obviously it's not solid fucking gold. None of the metals really are anymore, but it's definitely, there's gold in there, but it's from e-waste gold. And I think that's a pretty cool way to recycle.
Is there not soccer going for the Summer Olympics this time?
There is, yes. There's the women's team got bronze, and the men's team, I don't know if they're still in it or not.
It looks like, let's see, today the United States won against Australia 4-3.
Okay, men, right?
No, maybe not. That's the women's tournament.
Okay, then that's the bronze. That should have been for the bronze medal.
Yes, that was a bronze medal match. I'm just trying to, like, is there any information about it? So, because I followed soccer very closely for a very long time, and it feels really weird to realize I'm like, I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
With the sport, I was so invested in for so long. Like, I don't know what's going on. Anyways.
Yeah, it's. Wow, what is the Olympic? I'm trying to pull up the counts of the medals. Yeah, so we've got, right now, the USA has 92 medals in altogether.
Mm-hmm.
And China, they're putting them as first because China has more golds than us. So they have 34 golds, 24 silver, and 16 bronze for 74 total medals. The United States currently has 30 golds, 35 silver, 27 bronze for a total of 92. And then the next closest to us is Japan, which is amazing because Japan is not a very big country. It's like the size of California. What's weird to me is
as far as total land mass, yeah.
Yeah. What's weird to me is that Russia is still in the Olympics, which they were banned from the Olympics, but then they did this thing called the ROC, the Russian Olympic Committee, and they're allowed to compete, which I'm very confused on why they are still allowed to compete at all in the Olympics, because they said they banned the entire country because of proven state-funded doping.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they got around this. Maybe they took them out of Russia to train somewhere else. I don't know. So that's the only way I could probably think they would get around that, is taking them out of Russia to, like, train in some other country, which, you know.
Or I wonder if maybe they're doing something to guarantee that they're not, taking anything. But
definitely don't lie again.
Yeah, it seems like it'd be hard to be sure to, or like to have any way to prove that you're not doing something. It's one of those, how do you prove a negative? You can't.
Well, I mean, they can, obviously they test them, but there's ways around the test. Even, today, there's still ways around the test.
Well, and if there's most of the, like, physical enhancement things have a pretty short window where you can test and identify it. So we trained for 4 years using it, and then stop using it just far enough in advance of the thing to make sure to pass the test when it's time for. I was like, it would be really hard to prove that you didn't do it, I guess is all I'm saying. Like,
yeah, it's a messed up situation. So I hope that Russia gets their shit together and just compete on the same level as everybody else without cheating. So, because I mean, obviously they're a really competitive country.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the Olympics and just general world powers, they're a competitive country. It's just a shame that their legacy has been tainted by doping. So
someone did say in conversations talking about the Olympics at work, like, that it'd be interesting if we had two separate, like, event competition sets, like ones that's clean, and then, like, let's go for broke.
Yeah.
Like, put all of the total, like, enhanced people into this other thing. Like, oh, you want to take stuff, take whatever you want, and then compete over there. Let's see what kinds of numbers we can get on that side.
You want to run a 7-second fucking 100 meter dash? Let's go. Guys got like fucking horse stuff. Legs. Yeah. All right. Anyway, yeah. On a serious note, so one of the reasons why we actually brought up this subject, I actually had an idea as I was watching the Olympics. I was drinking a little bit, probably a lot, and I was thinking about the effects of the Olympics on Japan, which we'll get into that a little bit later. But then I was thinking of why are we still why are we moving around the Olympics around the world every 4 years in a different host nations, knowing that the host nation that uh, does the hosting, they have to build all these new facilities that after the fact they don't, most of them don't get used ever again. It's a huge burden on their economy, and they're actually not getting a lot out of it. So they have to put up all this money to build all these facilities. They get to use them. Yeah, they get some tourism in, obviously, but then after that, the facilities aren't used like at all. Like if you look up like unused Olympic facilities, you'll see like some really fucked up shit. Like
here, let me do this. Present now. Temp. This search. Ooh, share. Yeah, so I mean, like, all you gotta do is do that, and then you see pictures and pictures and pictures, and it goes to every single one. And the further back you go, it's really interesting actually, because you end up with some cool looking photos of fully overgrown like jungle around structures in it. And you're like, there's an Olympic venue in there somewhere. Trying to like, it's some fun stuff that you can do. Looking those up, but yeah, it's not something you have to do. For those just listening, like I just did what he said, which was type in like rundown. I think what I did was run down Olympic venues, and you said what, like unused, right? Yeah. It's sad. Like I know that one of the ones I liked the photos mostly from was like Brazil. Yeah. Because the jungle took over like a lot of those. There's a lot from like older European ones too that were pretty interesting from like the 80s, because those ones definitely also are to the point where the nature is reclaiming those facilities.
Yeah, so for the Tokyo Games, the figures to actually host the Olympics, it's $15 billion. $15 billion, and most of that, I think it's more than half, is paid for by the Japanese taxpayers. So anytime you see like the host nations hosting these, like the vast majority of the burden to build these things are on the taxpayers, and I think it's really messed up, especially because they don't actually get that much out of it. So my idea was, why don't we stop, picking a host nation every 4 years, and just pick one nation, and just the people that are going to compete in the Olympics, they pool in their money and they build facilities there, and they help maintain and update the facilities as needed. And my first idea was to be, hey, let's just put it in for the Summer Olympics. Just put it in Greece. It's where it started. Greece is pretty messed up financially right now. So put it in Greece. All these nations put in their dollars to build the facilities, and then have the profits go towards towards actual Greece. Okay, so for the first year, and then if they still need help after the next year, after the next Olympics, then do that. But my idea is, after we stabilize Greece's economy, then we take the profits for the Olympics and then put it towards another nation. And if we want to vote on which nation that is, fine, but it needs to be nations that actually need financial help, and it needs to go directly to that country to rebuild their infrastructure, education, stuff like that, and not towards just like random bullshit. I think that's a much better way to actually use the Olympics to actually help nations kind of come up, and just help people. What's going on? Your headphones break?
They just stopped working. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You took them off, and I was like, all right.
I missed the last little bit. I got most of what you said.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean,
What was the very last item?
I was just to make sure that we actually helped nations like that. I think that's more of you already talked about like the Olympic, real spirit is, coming together. But I think that is like helping people. Like, why can't we just use the Olympics to help nations around the world? Because we could do it. Like the Olympics, they make money, but it should. But when you have to put in so much money from the get-go, and then you can't use those facilities ever again, like why not just upkeep the facilities and then keep the profits and kind of lottery away the money? Or not lottery. I mean, you could obviously, instead of using like the same voting system that they use right now to pick a host nation, use a voting system to pick a country that needs the money.
Yeah. So I did see one thing in Discord that would say we might need to like think of a different piece, which is like most Europeans that were in this Discord with me commenting were saying it's so frustrating that the time zone is like literally the opposite end of the day, opposite time of the day. So they have to watch stuff late at night or early in the morning in order to catch events that they find interesting if they want to catch them live. So there could be like one on each hemisphere, and then there's only this back and forth rotation, so that gives us 8 years to make sure that the facilities maybe at one or the other are maintained and are good. Like, but that's still 8 years of facility just sitting there is enough for something to get pretty run down.
Yeah. But somebody else said that, like, have 2 facilities, which I'm all for. But it's right now when it comes to like the whole 24-hour time period. Like, I don't mind missing something live. When I was a kid, though, I stayed up late at night to watch the Olympics. So if you really want to watch it, you can do it. You can do it. But I think right now it's so easy for us to, go online and pull it up anyway. So to me, there's less of an excuse now of like, oh, it's not my time zone. But nothing. I mean, you're in one time zone. There's a world. So yeah, if we could do 2, it'd be cool. But I'm fine with 1 because I think it's easier to maintain one facility or one set of facilities.
Yeah, and if you think about it, like even just that simple idea of doing just 2, well, yeah, but that's literally twice as much of an expense. So if it were saying, oh, instead of 2, it's 3, each time you add a little bit more, sure, it's a little bit less of an increase, but it's again a whole nother 1. If we had just had 1, that could work too. So then maybe to compromise it would be Greece being Summer Olympics, since it has that foundation, or maybe the other hemisphere could get the Winter Olympics. So at least, then this hemisphere during Winter Olympics has to like get up and watch stuff. So
yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah,
Asia and Australia, which kind of is Asia. But as far as all those time zones would be like, oh man, I have to watch the Olympics from Greece, and the time zones would not work out so great for them. But then Winter Olympics being out there, somewhere in the Eastern Hemisphere would make that work, I guess.
Yeah. You notice how both Americans didn't say shit about having it in America?
Yeah. So the issue with doing it here is that then so when was the last one? It was Atlanta, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually watching it when the bombing went off. That was crazy.
Right.
Yeah, I heard it.
I think I was watching it live too.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But like the issue that I find, if we're talking about it being something that's sustainable and that then provides like long-term support for it, Winter Olympics, there would be a lot of really good locations in the United States, to be honest, or Canada. But with Greece being far west on the Eastern Hemisphere, it kind of almost works for our time zones to be able to still watch, where it would be very difficult for Asia. And so then I think putting it in Asia makes it then difficult for most of Europe and North America, whereas we're kind of caught in the middle on both of those.
Yeah.
That's my thought. So I think Japan or Korea would be easy hosts for the Winter Olympics. But
yeah, or even, I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with putting it in, well, I don't know. Because there's like parts of Siberia where it's like, it's frozen year round, pretty much. So,
yeah, Hokkaido, and during the winter there's some pretty good runs. I've done snowboarding both places. Actually, I was just gonna say, I was like, did I? Yeah, both. So I've been snowboarding in Hokkaido and been snowboarding in South Korea, and both are pretty good in the wintertime. Pretty good pattern.
It'd be really cool though. Just thinking outside the box. If you could have it in Antarctica, that'd be dope. But there's like you'd have to literally start from scratch there, and I don't. Yeah, it probably couldn't be done.
I don't even know if it's manageable with the way weather is there during the winter. Like
it's so cold.
So cold that it's like you can actually compete.
Yeah, it's so cold, but it'd be cool. Like actually, and that's how we started like making Antarctica like a real nation.
Supportable.
Yeah, and it'd be like a nation that's built upon a coalition of nations. You know what I mean? Like that. Yeah. That's altruism, but it's also very cold. So
it's how it is right now. There's nowhere that's technically anyone else's territory in Antarctica. It's all science research that's multinational, and like anybody can be anywhere. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of like the moon right now. Technically, the moon is anybody's. But thinking outside the box, really good winters and good mountains. New Zealand.
Do they have
southern parts of New Zealand are like really serious winter mountains. Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't unaware. That would be
Now, do they have facilities for skiing and snowboarding? I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I didn't get to go snowboarding in New Zealand. We were there in their summertime. So
yeah. It's also really it's a small. Well, I don't know how big New Zealand is off the top of my head. So I'm just worried about like actual space.
it would
It'd be pretty
be
small
something.
too,
I'll tell you one thing. Probably New Zealand would be like, no, don't want that, because most of the people who are there like love the idea that they are kind of disconnected from
Yeah.
most of the world. Like, we're this small little place, and we just worry about ourselves, and people visit, and it's great, and then they go away. And so the idea of building all these huge facilities and every year have to deal with that, or not every year, but every 4 years need to deal with that kind of an influx, they probably would not be about it. Like, nope, we're good, never mind.
Yeah, and also like the facilities would kind of mess up their natural beauty of the country. It's like when they filmed Lord of the Rings there. I don't know if you knew this, but they had to literally like cut out like grid squares of like where they're gonna build like the buildings and like put them in like a greenhouse. And then when they were done filming, they tore down all these buildings, and then patch by patch they put everything back exactly where it was. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was real serious. So we went and we were going to, one of the things I wanted to go to was go to the site where Edoras was, like where the Rohan Kingdom's like seat is, you know, and they built that on that hill, and you can see the mountains all around them. Basically that kind of like super iconic looking like New Zealand still scene from Lord of the Rings. But it was going to be like a 4-hour drive out there to like stand at a grass spot, because there is nothing there.
Yeah.
They tear that stuff down just to keep it natural, like you said. To like stand on some hill and be like, "Yep, this is the spot." To then drive all the way back, like, "Oh my god, we'll go do something else." But it would have been cool. I don't know how cool. It was like, okay, cool, a grass hill, because they were serious about it. The only thing that was ever constructed as one of the sets for the movies that still remains to this day was Hobbiton, and only when they were doing The Hobbit. So when Lord of the Rings was made, they tore everything. They had to tear everything out. But when they did it again for The Hobbit, they because New Zealand knew how big it was and how much of a tourist attraction it could be, they specifically decided on Hobbiton to be like, that one we'll build and we will keep it, and it will become a site that's managed and is a part of the culture, and it's in North Island, so it's already kind of, you know, more of where most people live. So that was there. And I'll tell you what, plants there, like this thing is, you've seen how green it is in the movies, like, but there are some plants, I have no idea what it is, something kicked my ass. Like, I don't have allergies. I never have allergies, I never have any problems with plants. I couldn't see, like, I'm just like snotting, like my face was up.
No.
So I had like, before every photo, I'm like, hold on, like clean my face up, take a picture, and then like, oh man, it was terrible. But it's just some plant that I do not agree with, apparently there.
Well, speaking of Lord of the Rings, did you know that they're releasing a new version of Lord of the Rings on Audible, and Andy Serkis is doing the narration?
I did hear that. I heard something about some animated series potentially, and Andy Serkis is going to do like most of the voices. I don't know what it was.
Nice. Well, they're doing like a live action series on Amazon that's coming out next year. So hopefully because I have press access to Amazon shows, so hopefully I get early access to Lord of the Rings.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I like the idea of him doing the audiobooks though.
Yeah.
He's a really good voice actor. He's got a big range of characters he can do.
Oh yeah. I was surprised to see him like in Black Panther. I was like, oh, that's right, that's what he looks like. Like, so I haven't seen him like act in person in a long time, and yeah, it was cool to see him.
He was in the like extended edition version of either Return of the King or in one of the Hobbit movies, because then he played himself when he was a Hobbit as Smeagol.
Yeah.
But that was the only. There's only like one scene basically. Some flashback or something.
Yeah, he's probably like one of the most underrated actors probably of all time. Anyway,
it's pretty good.
Back to the Olympics. So yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
but I was talking about New Zealand because Olympics could be there.
Yeah, could be there.
We did was a pretty big tangent.
We'll go on a serious nerd tangent. You talk about Lord of the Rings, you know. Yeah, but I never read the books. That's the funny thing. I just watched the movies. But now, I mean, they're having the audiobook. I wonder how long it's going to be, but I'll listen. So.
I read them. I have a set on the shelf over there that are like matched sets. It's like the Hobbit is in a different color. That's the only difference. But they all like have similar art graphics and similar covers and similar like actual hardbound pieces. So pretty good. I've had them for like 15 years.
Wow.
They've been around.
Yeah.
I like Lord of the Rings, but I have not done like I haven't gone in as far as to where like a friend of mine read the Silmarillion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't go that far. It's like reading the Bible in a make-believe world that I'm like, I get it, but it's just history and lore. Like, I have a hard enough time keeping track of our own history, let alone trying to remember all of the details of some fantasy land. So,
I think it's an interesting idea, though, having like the Silmarillion, but then like, I feel like if he wrote that first as like his own like thing to like keep track of everything, and then he could like go back on reference material from that, you know, because for me it's kind of like almost like a reference book, like you said, or like a Bible. So you can just go back into that and be like, oh yeah, this and that, and like then continuing to write his book. I think that's an interesting way to like build your lore for a book. I don't know if like authors now do something like that. Maybe they do. I don't know, because I'm not a writer. I wish I could be, but I have ideas. But the whole structure of it is just like, man, it's a lot, you know.
Yeah, one of my favorite, who I just introduced you to, and you read a little bit of his stuff, he does that. His stuff is definitely all interconnected and has a very... He keeps it close to the chest for now. I'm sure at some point he'll release his like compendium of what like keeps everything together. So he's tracking like all the interconnected stories and how the Cosmere actually works or whatever. But
yeah. It sounds like its own universe. There's like multiple books based upon the same... Yeah, which I'm going to go back and like read the other or listen to the other books. So, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so that idea, pretty cool. And I do think that's how it started. Most of it was notes and things he wrote in order to create the structure for being able to then, okay, I have all my background and my concepts. Like he wrote entire languages to be able to then go in and use it in the bookshelf.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Pretty amazing.
Well, I kind of see how, so I had an idea for a book for like a long time. And so I got, I forget the name of the program, but I got like this program.
Scrivener?
Yeah, Scrivener. Yeah, and so Scrivener kind of makes it easier. Because you can like reference your things in your notes and shit like that. And so like I was coming up with ideas and I was just like, I need more time and care. Yeah, it's hard.
There's not enough time in the day for the things I want to do. Yeah. Scrivener has been around a long time, so there are a couple of like more modern ones that work pretty too. I think like Campfire is like an online version of the similar thing, and you can. Have you used Kahoot? It's one of the things I'm using for learning right now, so probably a poor example, but
no.
Okay. So when I'm building stuff on it, whatever the context of either the question or the slide I'm building, like I can add graphics to it. So then you just click the add graphics. Like you can just search their library of like a crap ton of graphics and things that are on there already. It's kind of like that. So you can use with Campfire, you can be like, oh, this is a character I'm designing that is kind of this kind of thing, whatever. And you'd be like, add graphic. Like it's like add an image of that character. You're like, this kind of character. You're like, oh, there's the thing. Okay, I'll take that one for now. So at least visually, you're like, that's pretty close to what I was picturing in my head. Helps you keep track at a quick glance. I haven't done it, but I saw some demos. I watched a couple of videos because I was thinking about paying for it. But then I remembered I have Scrivener now after. So I did NaNoWriMo. Do you know what that is in 2015?
No.
So November is, for the United States, is National Novel Writing Month. And so you can like join this club, NaNoWriMo, and work with others who are also trying to write a novel all during the month of November, write the whole novel. So in 2015, I completed it, did the whole requirements for completing a novel in a month, and as a result of like completing the whole thing in November, you get access to a bunch of bonuses, and one of those was like half price on Scrivener, and so I jumped at that and did it.
Nice. Yeah, I bought it, and then I started some stuff, and then like stuff happened, and I was just like, God damn it! I gotta make it a priority.
I have an untitled, not untitled, but like I'm writing in a way so that I require no attribution. Like I don't have to go to DC and get licensing or whatever. That's like a Batman fanfic, so that in no way do I ever say that this is specifically Batman. But anybody that reads it is like, that's fucking bad. It's like this character Bruce and that character Mr. J and that I can't figure out who all these people are.
Yeah. It's hilarious.
Clark.
Because you know me, like behind that way, it's just like 25 boxes of comic books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's 25. Just right there, and then there's like a bunch of long boxes behind there. Or you can see it actually right there's long boxes down there. So
yeah.
Yeah, I read a lot of comics. A lot. I just spent $170 something today on comic books. So yeah, my normal was a pull. It was 2 weeks of pulls, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, because I don't do the comics as much. Like every once in a while, I'll get one. So after we happened to be in Australia, and one of the things we wanted to do was go to a comic book shop. Like Logan really wanted to go to a comic book shop, and we planned on going like the next day. And today was when Carrie Fisher died. And so we go to a comic book store the next day, and they have all of the Leia comics.
Wow.
So we're like, let's get the whole collection, just to have those like kind of in honor. So we got the whole collection of Leia comics. I was like, that was cool. So like moments like that, I'm like, I'm gonna buy those. I'm gonna go ahead and get those and put that away because it's cool. I mostly do any comic book reading like digitally. Like I have subscription to the Marvel comic stuff, and so every once in a while I'm like, oh yeah, I need to catch up and I'll read through a few. I haven't bought like a collector in a long time. I had not near that collection, but like I had maybe one or two of those boxes. I had tons of like baseball cards and Magic cards and stuff too, and it all got lost when I left home to join the Marine Corps, and people back home got rid of everything. So.
Yeah, same thing with me. Like most of mine were lost. Luckily, I got some of them back, but yeah. But you can do the adult thing now, which is just to get trade paperbacks, which aren't worth anything, but you get all of the collections in like one book. And if I think there's a comic book series called Saga that's from Image Comics, and I highly recommend that to anybody. It's don't have your kids read it because on like page 3 there's definitely non kids material. I'm not going to say what it is, but you'll see. It's a really good series though. It's on hiatus right now, but it's like one of the best comics that I've ever read. If they make it into a series, it'll be better than Star Wars. You can quote me on that. I'm just saying. It's a really good series. But yeah, anyway.
Is it sci-fi or superheroes?
It's sci-fi. Total sci-fi. Yeah.
Gotcha. On sci-fi, though, I do have all of the Serenity comic books.
I don't have any of those. Nice.
Yeah, because Firefly, like, I'm super huge brown coat, so
yeah.
it's fun.
All right. Back to the Olympics.
Back to real superheroes.
Yeah, because they are basically fucking superheroes.
The fitness, like, and some of the insane stuff that they could do.
There's also another idea that I had besides, like, the whole, put it in one spot, share profits around the world, help countries out, help people out,
Yeah.
Olympic spirit. I think they should bring back pancration. I don't know why they stopped pancration, especially given the fact that we have MMA now and it's super popular. Basically, pancration is like the world's first MMA. It's almost the same exact skill set of MMA. They even have pancration to this day. They have like actual pancration like leagues where it's basically MMA except you can't punch somebody in the face. You have to use like your palm, which is fine. If you want to use a palm strike, it's fine. But they need to bring pancration into the Olympics because you have a whole bunch of fighters that know how to fight and it's popular
and would be able to do so. And then honestly, like the way there's a part of like society that looks at MMA a certain way, mostly just because the only venues for MMA style events is through that kind of venue. It doesn't have this outlet that goes into anything that's like more legitimate. There's no beyond this specific arena competitions for that. It's the same way people look at like professional wrestling. It's like you're not going to go into something else other than acting because it's all acting anyways. But sorry for those who don't know.
Well, but it's acting, but also like if I dropped you from 10 feet, onto your back, like you probably wouldn't get up very fast. Yeah.
Well, it's like it's acting, by very physically fit and skilled people.
Yeah.
Like who have a very specific set of skills that they need to do.
Yep.
So, sort of sidebar. So, we're talking about wrestling, like professional wrestling, where it's for theater, it's for like entertainment.
Yeah.
In high school, we did like a fundraiser for one of our dances or something that was all of like the student leadership council or whatever pretended to be like characters in the WWF at that time, right? We got a full ring. So if you don't know, there's a pretty serious underground wrestling, like amateur wrestling stuff that goes in Portland.
Well, most
Oregon,
places.
anyway.
Yeah, but especially up there. Yeah.
What do you say?
I said it's in most places, but especially up there. Because people are fucking weird up there. Let's be honest.
But yeah, so we were able to like very easily rent a whole ring and like everything. Like, yeah, we got all kinds of equipment. Like, you can rent this stuff. Cool. So we rented it. We all practiced. And like, we did all of this stuff because we were 17, 18 years old or whatever. So you can do it. And then like I'm good. Move on the next day. But like, yeah, there's no joke. Coming off the top rope, landing on that thing, even though it's squishy, it's got springs, it does all this stuff, it still hurts. Like,
yeah.
There's no not having that hurt. So you're still putting your body on the line. But like the drama, the story that all goes along with it, that's all planned and prepared.
Oh yeah, but that's when you're a kid. That's what makes it more enjoyable. You know what I mean? Yeah,
it is entertaining, without a doubt. But yeah, so for a lot of people, the MMA stuff, like without it having a more like world viewed like place to go, it does kind of still stay in this niche of people who specifically like MMA. But if Pankration was back in it, now it's like you could go from that, win a certain thing, and like maybe if you're a competitor in the MMA, a certain number of slots at the end of each overall season or whatever it is MMA is running could then go towards like world competitions for being able to get into Pankration to go to the Olympics. Because that's how a lot of sports are. Like if you're competing on a professional level in like an entertainment side of sports, then you pretty much immediately get into the qualifiers, to be able to then go into the Olympics and do it. So
yeah, I think it's a long time overdue. I mean, we've had the UFC since like the late 90s, and they have all this attention, but it's attached to like what you're saying. It's attached to like a whole kind of subculture of people that are some of them are, and don't get me wrong, I'm an MMA fan. Obviously, I'm a jiu-jitsu guy, so I do combat sports, so I get it. But there's like a subsection of the fans and people that are running these organizations they're kind of shitty, they're kind of shitty people. Yeah. And I think it'd be cool to like legitimize it by like having a professional organization that's not based upon some shitty weirdness, and like have them compete and like win a medal for their country. And that'd be cool.
That'd be pretty cool. So being someone who spent a lot of years doing martial arts stuff, so the no fist strikes to the face, right? Palm strikes only. Who does that actually protect more, the person striking or the person being struck?
Both actually.
Yeah, because there's a lot of damage that goes into closing your hand and getting hit when hitting with your palm. Like, still does a pretty dang good amount of damage to the person you're hitting, but so much less to your own hands. To me, it's the striker that is most protected, but like by removing that as a thing, like you're not allowed to. Okay, cool. That means I'm not going to break my hands on someone's face. I could still do a pretty good amount of damage. And what you're going for most of the time with the hand strike, right, is to open something else or create room for it. Because there's room for hand strikes being the final thing, especially in certain sports. But like in a Pankration style or like a full open stuff, to me, at least my history of it, that those aren't usually the things that end up winning that kind of a fight.
Well, so yes, for most people. So I think one of the main things when it comes to like open hand strikes is that it significantly lessens the chance of a cut being on somebody's face when you hit them with open hand. And that's what most people are worried about seeing is blood, because people have a problem with blood, which I get it, But also, if it depends on the person. So Bas Rutten, who is a famous, MMA fighter who started off in kickboxing and Pankration, he figured out a way to like fucking like put his hand really far back on his wrist. So like this is my bad wrist, sorry. So my wrist goes back like this far, okay? And so like I can hit you like here. It goes back a decent amount, but his can go back like way far. It goes back to like here. And so when he hits somebody, it's like getting punched with his wrist, and he can basically throw a jab like with his palm. And so he would just wrecking dudes with just like palm strikes. And it was just like man. And so he would use the palm strikes to open them up to like make them put their hands up, because usually in pancreation you get a palm strike, it hurts but it's not a big deal. But when he was blasting people with like a hook and a fucking palm strike, they put their hands up, and then he would immediately dig for that for the liver shot, and that's what he's famous for, was liver shot. And it was just like just that one single thing of like being able to pull your hand back far enough to like expose more of like the hard part of your palm, of like your wrist.
These bones rather than these bones.
Yeah. It's like it was a game changer for him. And so he found a lot of success in palm strikes.
So like his wrist did sort of like what my thumb does,
yes,
which is this
the double
thing. You're like, what the heck is happening? Yeah, it bends like almost all the way back to the base behind it. Yeah.
That is like a weird genetic thing. 'Cause I know people like that have like that. That's it. That's all I got.
It doesn't go back. It's totally just something with the way the tendons are. Totally genetic. Yeah.
But I can also like crack my knuckle on my thumb like all the time. Like clean my thumb, man. It's weird.
That might be going back to a previous episode, just us being old.
Yeah. Well, I've been able to do that since I was like probably 13. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's not an old thing. Maybe that's just a you thing. So let's see. What else about the Olympics? What is he?
So you said you didn't pay that much attention to the Olympics. So you didn't know anything about Simone Biles' like whole situation.
So did we talk about this pre-show, a different episode, or during a show?
I don't know.
We did talk about it a little because I remember I saw the memes happening to where it was like it said numbers of medals she'd already won, the amount of like charity work that she does, and like how much she is like this, inspiration to so many people, and it said like already a hero, and I had only seen that side of it. That's what we were talking about before, and I don't remember if it was on or before, but it doesn't really matter. But like, I was totally confused. So I was like, so what happened? Like, why does this need to be out to say like that people treat her as heroes? Like maybe she didn't medal, or maybe something happened. Like she's been doing so well and then didn't. And then I looked, and then we talked about it. Actually, I don't think I even saw an article that explained it very well. That explained to me that like she was like, I'm not going, and just basically did not go at all.
Well, no, I mean she definitely. I mean she went to the Olympics, but she was competing in the Olympics. Like she got the women's team into the into the finals. But then after that, like she had like a mental issue where she just could not compete anymore, and so people were like really mad that, she wasn't gonna, that she basically pulled out of the all around and the team competition, and then she had to pull out the vast majority of the individual competitions as well, and people were just like really angry with her about like pulling out. But it's like, man, like could you imagine like doing like a backflip and some twist in the air? Things that people literally cannot do, like at the highest level. And if you're having an off day, like man, like you can get seriously injured off of that.
What? And by losing her, were they able to medal?
Yeah, they I think they still got, was it all around? I think the team still got gold, or maybe it was silver or bronze. They still medaled, definitely medaled,
yeah.
And they definitely wouldn't have gotten that high without her. You know what I mean?
And I have to imagine too. So saying it was, that it was a mental breakdown kind of thing, or like a mental health issue where she's, probably felt the pressure. Like this is on me to get us here because everybody else is great, but like everybody's also saying and knows and won't stop talking about it that I'm the best. I'm like carrying this team and I'm doing these things. Like stop putting it all on me. Sometimes there's that feeling. And that's that's a very stressful thing, and you can only take that for so long. I mean, shit, I feel that sometimes. It's like, how much of this do you need me to do, like, before other people can step in and get some stuff done?
Yeah, it ended up actually being more than just like it was a mental thing, but also she had this thing called the twisties, which apparently is like a thing where like you can't. Well, when she was doing her various techniques, where her body and her mind like weren't in sync, and so you
Oh.
kind of saw it. Like I remember I was watching her like her landings were like not good, and I was like, why are her landings like they're not? She wasn't sticking to her landings anymore.
Hmm.
And then she decided to pull out, and apparently like she wouldn't know where she was in the air, and then it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And there's videos of her like trying to practice, and she was just like totally missing like everything. And so she was
Hmm.
like, well, instead of me, just trying to go out there and knowing that I have this issue, why don't I just pull out and then like have the alternate come in and like,
Yeah.
which to me, I mean that's pretty reasonable. Like she didn't know that was gonna happen,
And not only that, but like now, now that just to me seems even more stressful. Like, shoot, okay, I've done so well up to this point, and there's something going on. I don't want to blow this for all of us too. Like, ugh,
Yeah.
I can go out there and completely bungle it, and then we don't win at all because because I'm supposed to carry a certain amount, and instead I would completely ruin it. Whereas if an alternate comes in, even if they don't do as well as the rest of the team because they're new to the whole group or whatever, they're still going to do fine, and then the others can step up their game a little bit, and then like make this work. I don't know, not necessarily an equivalent. When I was running track in high school, I was the slowest on the group of guys who were part of like the 400-meter relay team. So we would run. It's a 1600-meter relay. We each ran 400, right?
Yeah.
And so I was the fifth guy on a relay of four. I was the one alternate because like I was the fifth slowest at the 400. So everybody else was faster than me. And then our fastest guy like tore his ankle like the week before district meets. You're like,
Yeah.
there's no way we're gonna win. Like we're not winning because you were the fastest and I'm the slowest. So now I have to run it instead of you. So there's no way we win in districts. And we still won districts because I still ran okay, but then every single other dude on the team like just stepped it up a little bit more, not even knowing that they had that kind of speed. And each of us put out our best time, which was enough to make up for losing our fastest guy. And it's like that's probably what she pictured happening. She's like, I'm gonna totally blow this up. Like he can't go out and run with a broken ankle or whatever. Same as her. She's like, I'm not functional right now, so I have to be the bigger person and be the better teammate and say I'm not going to compete. Let someone else get in because I'm going to probably make this bigger. And that, like, I can imagine. So the mental health part of it is probably more about that than now that I understand better about it, which is like I'm freaking out about how everybody's going to look at it and how everybody's going to feel, and she doesn't even care about us and the rest of people, like her team, who she's been working with for those years. God, that's got to be rough.
Yeah, it was, and yeah, people. I mean, they all stepped up. I mean, they got silver. I just looked it up. They got the silver medal instead of the gold. Oh no, But also, Suni Lee, like she stepped up for the all around, and she ended up getting the gold for the all around. And on the individual events, Simone Biles came back and did the balance beam. She got bronze. So she still medaled, and I think there was somebody else that ended up medaling too. That got a gold. A few others, but it's like people just like were shitting on her like constantly. I'm like, dude, can you imagine being like, she's got 27 gold medals, 27 gold medals.
How many do you have out there? Sorry, what's this now?
That's amazing. She's literally the greatest of all time as a gymnast, and people were just like, oh well, she's a quitter. No, she's not a quitter. And then they were bringing up Carrie. What the hell was her name? The poor girl that broke her ankle and kept running. I remember watching it too.
I can't think right
now. Yeah, I can't remember her goddamn
name.
name.
I've heard it, but I don't remember. What event did you say she went in and did on the individuals?
The balance beam.
Balance beam. Okay.
Oh, so I'm sorry, yeah. Carrie Strug. That was the girl's name, and she broke her ankle, and they made her run the vault 2 times, even though they already got the medal, and she ended up, that was the end of her career at 18 years old. Because because they made her run this thing. And like, oh yeah, look how brave she was. She did it for the team. But it's like, but she ruined her career at 18 years old to like satisfy you. Yeah, it's like, they already had the medal.
Yeah, so I was thinking balance beam. So balance beam, and then I was thinking when you said it, I thought pommel horse.
That's
but
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like either way though, those would be ones where you don't have to go upside down quite so much, which probably helps with her thing. She probably tried it a few times. Like, okay, when I do this event that I, can do, I don't end up with as much of the, you said it was twisties or whatever. Like, I don't get so out of sync with what's going on right now. So maybe I can still compete now. And she probably expected to get better than bronze if she wasn't still having whatever was going on. So
yeah. Well, I think it's for a lot of people. I think that are not athletes. There's times like in your athletic career, because both of us are still athletes. We're just aging athletes. And there's times where, like, even when we're young, like your body is just like you're not in a place to where you can compete at 100%.
Yeah.
So even at a shitty level, like I can't compete, and it happened to her during the Olympics, and I don't feel bad for her at all. Like well, I feel bad for the hate that she's getting, but
yeah,
I feel good that she decided to pull out and be like, hey, like I just can't do it now.
Yeah, someone else, and imagine this too. That means she's probably at a point where this is the last one. This was the last Olympics for her. She's probably old enough. She's like, I'm probably done with this.
Yeah.
So she's gonna feel like have to deal with that personally, regardless of whatever else is. Everybody's gonna stop talking about it after a little while. She's still gonna remember. She's like, it sucks that I couldn't finish strong like I hoped to. Something happened. Whatever it was, I'm sure she'll figure out what the medical reason for it is. And if she doesn't have to compete anymore, it won't matter because it only happens when she's doing that high-level competition to spin like that. It just sucks. Like, I'm sure she would have loved to have not had that happen and been able to finish this Olympics and be like the last one and wave her farewells and like not stop competing. But yeah, that sucks.
Well, it does suck, but it also one thing that's really cool is that she still inspired like a whole generation of kids. Like my daughter, it was basically the fucking Simone Biles show. Like when she talks about the Olympics, she wants to watch Simone Biles. I'm like, all right. And then when she pulled out, she was like, I don't really want to watch anymore. Yeah, I'm just like, God damn it. But now she's like, now she wants to do handstands and all this other kinds of things. So I'm like, it's cool. Like you inspired at least my daughter, So and I'm sure she's inspired probably thousands or millions of kids to at least look into gymnastics. I think that, to me, that's worth more than any medal.
Yep.
So,
without a doubt. Yeah, I would say when, I was still pretty young, my first major injury that takes you out for a while, I tore my shoulder pretty bad, and for 6 months or so, you're like in a sling and can't move anything, and you're like, I'm not doing anything. I can't do martial arts training, I can't go play football with the rest of the Marines, I can't do a PFT, or I don't think even had CFTs back then. So I couldn't run my PFTs, it wasn't nothing. Like, can you do crunches? No. Every movement hurts my shoulder. I need to just not do anything. So the doctor and physical therapy and all the other stuff for 6 months, it's painful. And at that point, if someone had been like, why aren't you competing? You're not a real Marine. It's like,
yeah, what the fuck?
Come on.
Yeah.
I'm injured right now. And that's, and there's a line between it. People will try to push it. And you know how Marines are.
Yeah.
But when you are actually honestly injured, you have to understand that. And I think most good leaders do. And I think most people who are good people would understand her being honestly injured at this point too. Whether you can see it or not doesn't change that fact. So
yeah. So anyway.
Because even the twisties, you talk about we talk about mental health issue like stress and whatever else. I could have been honestly fine with that. This is whatever's going on. If you know you're not going to compete, cool. But I'm assuming it's probably an inner ear or some other balancing thing, which is a huge part of gymnastics. And just because you see the injury, people act that way. Some physician somewhere is probably going to be like, oh yeah, no, you should not compete right now.
Well, I think that most Americans, or just people, probably mainly Americans, that they don't understand that, just because you can't see an injury doesn't mean somebody doesn't have an injury. And especially when it comes to mental health issues, we have a serious issue with mental health in America, and we see it all the time. You know what I mean? Look at the people, the vast majority of people that are homeless. Look at the rising rates of, mass shootings, shit like that. We obviously have mental health issues in America, but people are just nah, fuck them. They don't have a real problem. That's not the problem. And it's just like, well, we need to address these issues and like actually take it seriously. And I think this is like kind of a perfect example of like people just not really giving a fuck about somebody's actual well-being. Just that, oh, just entertain me. It's like, no, like that she's not there to entertain you. Like that's not her job.
It could be even broader as a concept too. We have like a rehabilitation issue, right? So
Yeah.
that ties us to later topics where realistically several of these things are the same concept. We have a difficult time as a society understanding that there are things that people have going on that can, in the long term, be solved, but we have to put effort into it, right? And we have to understand it and work with it. And instead, what we'll do is just put it away, right?
Yeah, and that's. But those issues, like if you just put things in a box, like you never open the box, like the box either gets bigger or eventually explodes. So
yeah, and I mean, I'm sure I don't know about you. I'm guilty of it. Like I have plenty of things I know I've put inside my box and just put away and go on with my day without needing to worry about it. And it works for a while, but like I said, like the box can only take so much. So I manage how much I put in there, and I don't know if I've talked to you about like so one of the books that I don't even want to write, but that I've been told so many times that I should, knowing that because anybody who knows that I write kind of comes to this point where they're like, you should totally write this book, and it's just like the story of how I got where I am and my whole basically my life story to this point, just all of the kind of shit that goes along with it. So I've started taking like notes, like trying to put together some stuff, and it's honestly like painfully difficult to be like, when did that happen? Where was I at? Who was all that? Like honestly, there are so many memories like that are in this weird like gray place in my brain that I can't access properly.
Because you put it in the box.
Huh? I put it in the box, right? Like, and now I'm trying to open it up and be like, can I sort this shit out that's in here? And rummaging around there is not fun sometimes.
Same thing with me, especially when it comes to like really painful memories that I put in the box for a reason, or like I don't want to like remember this shit, you know. So, yeah, I get that, man.
So then, so imagine now try to write the life story. You're like, do I want to go into those shadows and freaking pull that stuff out of there?
Yeah,
but it's real, right? It's the stuff that we had to get put in the box, and maybe that's a part of how it's told us, like, you know. And at that point in this part of it, like that had to go in the box.
Yeah.
So it's tough, but I can imagine that would be hard for a lot of people to understand or accept, like, and be like cool with talking about, like, because again, like you said, the mental health stuff, the how we deal with emotional stress and rehabilitation, like we're not good at that. We don't want to talk about it because it means bringing it out into the light, and that's, I don't know, weirdly why, but it's weirdly like un-American.
Well, it's even worse for like guys like you and me, because I mean we're Marines, you know, and like to talk, it's very difficult to talk to. So most of the Marine Corps is full of like these alpha male mentalities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so talking about like feelings and shit like that, it's like, no, you don't talk about that shit. Have a beer, do some fucking push-ups, whatever, you know. But totally not understanding that as you get older, all these things compound. And we already talked about it before. Like when you put shit in the box is only so big, and then all of a sudden you're having a fucking nervous breakdown in like an Applebee's, you know. It's just like, what's going on? It's because you put shit in the box and you didn't maintain the box. You have to take stuff out of the box and like address these issues. And that's, I think that's why you see like a lot of people with you know, really bad and negative PTSD issues, is because they put things in this box and then they don't get help to figure out how to like positively, or how do I put it in a better word, how to take things out of the box in a constructive manner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that you need help for that. For most people.
And some of those items, especially like military PTSD, and like if it doesn't matter if it's military or not, but like if it's a traumatic enough event to for most, you know, professionals to be able to say like there's probably PTSD associated with this, that single event is probably too much for any of our boxes, right? Like you can't put that in the box and have it stay there for long without needing to address it and understand it better and work your way through it. And I think over time, then that thing can kind of go back in there and it becomes a thing I don't worry about every day because now it's become smaller because I've dealt with a lot of it, but it never goes away entirely, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, even when we talk about, I messed up even when I said it. Is like when we say PTSD, I think we should just drop the D off the end of that. Somebody else, I forget who the fuck said it, but it was somebody smarter than me that was just like, I don't understand what we call it post-traumatic stress disorder. It should just be called post-traumatic stress, because for most people, when they go through like a post-traumatic stress issue, what they went through should not be considered a disorder because you went through something super traumatic. And the response that you have is a normal response. And to call it a disorder, kind of like...
I screwed up the sound. Hold on. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Can you still hear me? No, you can't.
Okay.
Can you hear me now? All right, cool. And to put put the disorder part on the end of it, it almost degrades like the whole meaning of it. It when you put the disorder part on it, it's like people are supposed to be able to go through things like this and be normal. But the problem is
really getting old. Sorry.
Oh, you got it working now?
I think so.
So what part did you not hear me?
Last couple seconds. Like it's only been. I just have to reach down and keep moving this stupid cable. I have to.
Yeah, find your cable. Yeah. So yeah, I think when you put the disorder part on it, it just assumes that people that go through something similar to that they should be normal. When it's like if you're going through something that's so traumatic like that, you shouldn't normalize it. Like it's something that needs to be addressed. So I try to say post-traumatic stress and try to like lop the D off of it because like I'll give you an example. If you see somebody getting blown up or getting shot or
right.
You know your mom getting beat up or you getting physically abused or mentally abused, it's a normal human response should be some sort of stress wrapped around that event because it's not normal for that to happen. When you put disorder on it, it makes it seem like, well, your response to this event is a disorder when it shouldn't really be that way. Like nobody should go through these things, and your response of being stressed out about it, to me, that's more normal. Like it's more normal to have like a stress event revolved around something that's fucked up, rather than somebody going through a similar event and being like, oh well, nothing happened, that's normal.
So I think the reason for the disorder part is to say that it needs to have action, right? You have to do something in order to help resolve it. But so maybe the better word would be injury, right? So post-traumatic stress, like injury. So like right now you have an injury,
yeah,
and you need to do rehab, or we need to work towards rehabilitation for your injury. And at some point, you'll be able to get to the point where you're not injured anymore. That's not removing the stress. That event still happened. It's real. It doesn't happen. Like, I've gotten to the point where my arm works, right, and I can use it and everything's fine. I'm never past this injury. It still messes with me all the time. But I'm functional, and I'm fine. And I can do my pull-ups. I can do other things. But, like, after doing a huge series of pull-ups like I did today, my shoulder's going to hurt for most of the day. So when we poke that post-traumatic stress, when something happens that reminds me of it, it's like, yeah, I'm dealing with this, and that's not comfortable. I don't like it, but I know how to handle it. I know how to work my way through it. I know how I have to deal with it, which is different for everyone. And this thing is still making a weird noise.
Yeah, I can hear it every now and again when you're stepping on it or something. It's all good. Technical issues happen all the fucking time, especially when we're doing shit remote. Like when we're on the same building, a little bit easier. But we never met, so we'd never been in the same building before.
No, never.
That's fucking weird. But eventually we will.
So weird. Yeah, it may end up being the other way around because I know you were thinking maybe in November, but we were also talking about heading up further that way for some kind of camping with the RV or something. We'll see.
Yeah, let me know. I know I have a wedding in September that I forgot to RSVP, and then the groom messaged me, "You can RSVP today," and I was like, "Oh fuck, I forgot. Sorry." It's supposed to be last year, and then the Rona happened, and yeah, and then they put it in this year, but yeah.
Yeah, my cousin. So like, my cousin was supposed to get married in April of 2020.
Yeah.
And so like this is serious. So like I bought mess dress, right? So the tuxedo version.
Nice.
And I was still a Chief Officer 3 at the time.
Oh, you're cutting out.
Staying spirit.
Hold on.
Knowing that I was already selected.
Papa Bear, hold on.
Yeah.
Give it like 3 seconds because you froze.
Froze it blue. Where was it? Where did it stop? You think?
I think it was when you were talking about your dress mess and then being a 1 Officer 3 at the time. So then go from there.
Yeah, so like I had to get the Chief Officer 3 like shoulder boards.
Mm-hmm.
And then where like I was going to wear those to the wedding because I was already selected for 4, which meant I also had to get the Chief Officer 4 shoulder board. These things are not cheap, mind you. So like the 3s ones were actually it wasn't even those. So there's also the standard cuffs and then there's the field grade officer cuffs. And so going from 3 to 4, I was like I need to get field grade officer cuffs. So those I went ahead and got field grade officer cuffs on because it was like $100 for the company grade and then like $130 for the field grades. And I'm like, I'm not buying both of these when there's maybe one event I'm going to wear these for. So it's like, no one's going to know at this wedding I'm going to that these are technically field grade officer cuffs. So I put the correct shoulder boards on. And then, then the thing never happened. Like I was going to fly back from Japan, go to her wedding, take my dogs to like people to watch the dogs so that we could do the movement of dogs from Japan back to here, which is a pain in the butt, ahead of time. And then do our PCS movements, and then obviously none of that worked out anywhere like we had planned it because. So I think they went ahead and just got married, so that they and then maybe later we'll have some ceremony.
Yeah, that's anything that happened last year sucked, and then we might. I'm still worried that we're gonna go into lockdown, like seriously, within like the next couple of weeks because we've been over 100,000 infections over the past 3 days. And it's not slowing down. I don't see how we don't go into lockdown. I mean, we're pretty lucky. I'm just hoping that most of the infections are going to be people who have the vaccine, breakthrough cases, and that's unfortunate, but they're probably not going to die, you know?
Yeah.
So that is a fortunate part.
Yeah. Just hoping that symptoms are mild because we've done enough, like, barely enough to, like, not have that go too bad for most people, so hopefully that works out. But if we could get, I think you talked about it a little bit last night too, that if we could get 70%, right, the 70% mark, and hit that like pseudo herd immunity point, or herd immunity point,
yeah.
herd humidity, that's not the right word, that's not what I was going for. Then, it would reduce the number of cases that are extreme and have pretty bad symptoms to the point where that's totally manageable and people will be fine in the hospitals and take care of it. All have beds and be able to give what they need. But God, to be at 50% or whatever the number is today, because I think it's a little bit higher. But
well, it's like it's right around 50% fully vaccinated. So
right.
It's like, man, the people just, I don't know, man. I just feel like we're living in like one of the dumbest times. One of the dumbest times.
It's like have you seen all of the parallels to Idiocracy? Like
I see it every day because I watch the movies fucking multiple times. People are so dumb. Like I'm like, how are you? You have literally the access to humanity's entire knowledge base in your fucking pocket, and you're this stupid, talking about how masks are harmful. Like, how are masks harmful? When you get surgery done, what does the doctor do? He puts on a goddamn mask.
So I went in and had a dental cleaning today. And I'm pretty sure that regardless of coronavirus, the person, the dental technician would cleaning my mouth out, spraying water out of my mouth everywhere, would have been wearing a mask.
Yeah, it's not, a mask is not, especially when it comes to, if you go to Asia, it's super common, right?
Yep.
People wear masks all the time. It's not an issue. Because they are more, they're more aware of germs than Americans are. I think this goes back. I think I talked about it before, but it goes back to like the European times of like when the Pilgrims came to America and brought a bunch of germs. They were just like, fuck it. They didn't care about spreading germs, and they were like way less cleanly than the natives here, and even the people in Africa. There was like multiple books written of like accounts of natives in certain countries being like, why aren't these people washing their hands after, before eating? Like, what are they doing? And it's just like, that's gross. And it was just like totally normal. Like, I don't know why people don't think that they're being totally disgusting. But like, possibly carrying a deadly disease, not wearing a mask, and then also not getting the vaccine for that same disease. But also they're confused. They're like, well, if you're saying it's a vaccine, then how are the vaccinated getting sick? It's like, it's 2 points. For anybody that doesn't seem to understand this, it's 2 points. First of all, the vaccines are not 100% effective. That's the major point. Second of all, the way that they're giving you the vaccine, it's giving literally your immune system the instructions to defeat the virus. It doesn't make you immune to the virus at all. What it does is, if you get the virus, your body already knows this is how you beat it. Like, you take the spike protein, this is how you beat that spike protein. But you're still going to get it. But your body knows what to do with it. So, and people are just, they don't seem to get it. They'll bring up some strawman argument. Maybe bring up fucking Jewish space lasers or something like that. I don't know. They're just being so ridiculous about every single small thing to just not wear a mask or get a vaccine. So I'm like, has the vaccine killed 600,000 people? No.
No.
So, I mean, how many people have died from the vaccine? It's, as far as I know, the highest estimate is maybe 1,600. Maybe 1,600.
Yeah. And I was still thinking, like, only in the hundreds. Like, hadn't even broken into the thousands yet. From what I looked at. It depends on probably who you're reading. But.
Yeah, I mean, that's the highest estimate that I've possibly seen. Is maybe. And there's been, what? I think it's like 200,000 people. No, maybe like 150,000 people have gotten the vaccine. Yeah, at this point. It should be a little bit more than that. It's so ridiculous. This basic number should be enough, but it's not. So I'm actually have my COVID vaccine card right in front of me because I had to input it into my insurance company the other day. I had to take pictures of it.
Froze up a second there. What did you say?
I had to take pictures of my COVID vaccine card to show that I was vaccinated.
Mm.
I don't have a problem with it.
No, I do need to find it. Because, like, I got mine, but I'm like, I didn't keep track of that part very well.
I kept track of it because I knew it was probably going to happen. I knew that there's probably people that I knew that are stupid as fuck that were not going to get the vaccine, and they were going to just like, oh, well, I'm vaccinated, I'll just go wherever the fuck I want. But you're going to force people, you're going to force the heavy hand of the government to make you show your vaccination, and that's what it has to. We can't have it both ways. Like, you can't be like, hey, you can take the mask off, but then also not vaccinated, because we're seeing the issue with that now. Like, you need to show that you're going to be okay.
Yeah. And I think what I did was one of those things that we all do, where I was like, I'm going to put this right here, and I'll never lose it if I put it right here. And then I'm like, but I don't know.
But you you didn't put it right here. You put it right there. That's the problem.
Gee, see, that's where I got this.
Anyway, some of that. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna bring it back to the Olympics.
Yep.
With the coronavirus. So, like I said in the beginning, I would have been fine if they would have pushed back the Olympics for another year, because we're in the middle of another spike. With Japan, they are seeing a huge increase in coronavirus infections because there are people from other places that are not vaccinated coming into the country. They're doing the best that they possibly can to mitigate the issue. But it's like, they should have just said, hey, listen, like, if you're going to come to this country, you need to be vaccinated. Because Japan, their population is older, generally speaking. They're almost missing a whole generation of people because of just working too fucking hard, and that's a whole other issue. But I would have been fine with them being like saying, "Hey, if you're gonna come to Japan and compete in the Olympics, you're getting the shot. If you don't want to get it, then you're not competing to protect our citizens."
Yeah, in order to continue to have it this year, because one thing would be potentially if, like you talked about, like you'd be fine with delaying it another year. That's another year they have to keep those facilities functional, like keep them up and running, make sure that they don't go bad. So, like, that's more cost. It's got to be some part of the math, too, to it, too. But, like, we can't afford to just keep holding onto these facilities and keeping them up and running for the year. That's why they all run down afterwards, because they keep them up and running for the Olympics and then they shut them down. Everybody walks away, and that's an expense that's no longer like a continuing expense, at least.
Yeah.
So to say like just hold on to those for another year, they're probably like, no, we're not doing that. Like we're just gonna go ahead and host it and have to balance out the costs, and unfortunately, that balancing act is going to be lives. So.
Yeah, people in Japan are definitely 100% going to die. At least some people are going to die from the coronavirus, from foreigners coming to their country unvaccinated. Like that fucking clown, I forget his name, but there's some guy that is from America, is an anti-vaxxer, and then he's taking off his mask when he's not supposed to in Japan. I'm like, listen, if I was the Japanese authority, I'd just kick him out of the country. Just kick him out. If he's going around not wearing his mask the way, and he has access to the vaccine, just kick him out. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. If he wants to play his clownish games, kick him out of your country, and I have no problem with that. The same way that, if somebody is not abiding to the rules of my house, in my house, then you get the fuck out. Like, imagine going to somebody's house in Japan and wearing your shoes in their house. Like, yeah,
you don't wear your shoes in the house.
Yeah, it's a no-no.
We take our shoes off when we come in the house. We spent so many years in Japan. That's just the thing you do. So it's so funny too, because if you talk to a Japanese person about it, they're like, "So you wear the same shoes that you wear outside in the dirt, like on the street, walking around, and everything else that's on the sidewalk, inside your house, instead of just taking them off and switching to inside the house shoes."
That's so.
And then you walk around barefoot.
Yeah, I understand like the whole. I wear shoes in my house, probably all the time. Not all the time, a lot. I understand like the whole germ argument. Totally get it. I just need to buy some fucking house shoes.
Yeah.
I have some flip flops. And the weird thing is, like, 'cause, I do jiu-jitsu, and I have, like, mats. So the mat that's, like, right there, that's kind of dirty because of the chalk thing that we talked about on the pre-show. If somebody has shoes on those mats, like, there's an issue. Like, we might get into a fight. Like, because it's for the exact same reason. Like, you don't wear shoes on those mats because on those mats, like, my whole body, like, is on the mat.
Sweat.
And, sweat and, like, picking up all these...
face eyeball contact, you're like, oh, this is shoes?
Yeah. And so, like, if you go, like, a jiu-jitsu gym or even, like, it's mainly jiu-jitsu gyms, I guess, but if you go to, like, the bathroom and then you come with your shoes on and then you step on the mats, like, that might literally get your ass kicked. Like, seriously. Like, somebody will literally stop you, like, what the fuck? I watched you go into the bathroom with your shoes on, and now you're on these mats? Get the fuck out. And that's not unreasonable.
So the anti-vax, it was a American swimmer. Hold on, I was probably gonna try it.
Yeah,
okay, it's an American swimmer named Michael Andrew.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah,
have they kicked him out of the country?
Didn't wear a mask, didn't take his vaccine. All this stuff.
It's almost like a slap in the face of like the rest of the world, because there's people around the world that are like begging for the vaccine, and people in America, we have mass access to it, and some other guys just like, nah, I'm not gonna get it. I'm gonna travel, not vaccinated, come to your country, not even care.
Yeah. So according to this article, his argument is that he actually had COVID. He got sick from it, so he'll have the antibodies already, anyways, and that taking the vaccine would affect his training schedule, because you do get side effects when you take the vaccine, and that those side effects affecting his training schedule would mean that he wouldn't be able to compete at the same level, and that those two things are enough to make it not worth the risk to take it.
He could have got it way before his training. Like, he could have got it back in like March. So
I'm sure he was training even then.
Yeah, still, just take the hit. How come only this one single athlete who, did he even medal?
I don't know. I'll look right now.
I don't think he did. Anyway, there's a bunch of other athletes that are training at a high level as well. They got the vaccine. You can work around shit like that.
You can make it work. Like, make that your rest day and move on.
Yeah,
It only took me 1 day to recover.
Same with me. Like, it wasn't even like I didn't even take a fucking rest day. I was still on the fucking bike. I've ridden my Peloton bike every single goddamn day for more than a year. You know, I didn't stop.
I will say I think I did work out earlier in the day. Then it kind of hit me later, and I was like crashed for the day, and then I was able to work out the next day. But yeah, it was just like from noon ish. I got home at like 1 because I left work early. I was like, nope, I'm not doing this, and I just fell asleep on the couch, and I slept until the next day. Like I went to sleep on the couch, got woke up by Cindy like, we can go to bed now. I'm like, okay, I went to bed, and I just had been asleep from then, and then I was fine. It's just that's kind of how sickness, when it's that level, like when it's uncomfortable, that I just kind of crash. The body rests and figures out what to do, and then I'm good.
Yeah, I think there's definitely ways that he could have done it, like to get around it. Because there's obviously you have scheduled rest days. You don't go hard as fuck every single day. You don't. No athlete does. People can try, but then you're not gonna compete at the highest levels. So you're not.
He did. He's a gold medal winner.
Is he a gold medal winner?
Yeah. But
I'm still gonna say fuck that dude.
I think you could have managed.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not an Olympic swimmer. I do swim pretty darn good, but not Olympic quality, probably.
I swim okay.
We were swimming today in camis, so.
Well, especially like the main thing for me is like him taking his mask off, like when he wasn't supposed to. It's just like, all right, man, come on, like for real.
Why?
I don't get that.
You're obviously not gonna swim with it, and like
Yeah.
obviously take it off once I'm in the pool, and like not in the pool, but like I've staged my gear. I'm about to get into the pool, mask off, like. But yeah, that's something about it. So today's like pool workout of the day was. It's like swim 100 meters, and then do 10 air squats, 5 burpees. Swim 100 meters, 10 air squats, 5 burpees. Swim 100 meters. Do that 5 times.
Wow.
That was after a regular HIIT workout outside of the gym, so all in boots and utes. So I'm like I said, I'm freaking floored. So.
Yeah, hits are bad. And on top of all that, yeah, I did a 15-minute Tabata workout on the bike today. And then I shoveled a bunch of fucking rocks and dirt and shit. So
You did do bullet rocks, yeah.
Yeah. But the Tabata thing is just like I always kind of forget. Like it's funny because like when you're actually wearing like a heart monitor, and you see like the accumulation of like your work on your heart, because it's like it goes up and down, but then if it eventually keeps going like hold on, here we go. It goes like up, down, up, down, up, down, up, and it keeps going like up and up and up and up and up. Like it goes down, but it keeps going higher and higher. It's like shit accumulates. I usually don't do like 50-minute rides, but I looked at my body battery today, and I knew I was already sitting at like, I think it was like 45% or something like that. And I'm like, all right, probably don't try to kill yourself for a long period of time today. So I did that, but yeah, Tabata and HIIT sucks. So the difference between, if anybody's like listening and doesn't know what the fuck we're talking about, so HIIT is when you're doing like a high intensity interval training. And so usually you'll do like something really hard and then get like a break. Like it's usually around the same equivalent of like the amount of work that you did, depending on like what you're doing. But with Tabata, it's specifically you're working more than you're breaking for. So for me today, I was doing 10-second intervals, not as hard as I can go, but pretty fucking hard, and then a 10-second rest. And then that's like, so can you imagine riding a bike? So imagine riding a bike at 26 miles per hour. How long can you do that for like most people? It's probably not that long, right?
No, not very long. Unless you're downhill.
Yeah, unless you're downhill. But yeah. So I was like doing like, my interval was like 26 miles per hour, and then I would slow down to like maybe 18 miles per hour for 10 seconds, and then spike it back up 26 miles per hour, back down to 18 miles, then spike it up to, so, and the work was always more than the rest, so it gets kind of brutal.
Yeah, you can only do that for so long. Yeah, the HIIT was 400-meter run, and then 30 pull-ups, 30 push-ups, 30 sit-ups, and then 400-meter run, and then 25 pull-ups, 25 push-ups, 25 crunches, 400-meter run, 15 pull-ups, 15 crunches, 15 push-ups, 400-meter run, and you're done. You only have 20 minutes, so none of us finished.
Oh,
but
wow, yeah. So
you do as
no
much
breaks?
of that as you can. Enrique was close, and I was still on like the bottom end of the 25, so
Wait,
I couldn't.
is that hit or is that what was the other one? There's another word for that. It's like as many as possible. What is that shit called?
Oh, AMRAP, but that's
Yeah,
still a hit.
yeah.
So that's not an AMRAP. That's it's a GAM or something. He had a term for it. I don't know. I don't CrossFit. I just go do hard workouts.
Yeah.
Like I don't know all the terms half the time. He says something, I'm like, I don't know what that means. You have to explain it to me.
You just do it.
So
Yeah.
let's go push stuff around and run places and do hard work. I don't mind, but he's really good at it. So it's easy to have when you have someone like that. It's easy to go get a good workout and be like, just tell me what to do. I don't worry about it.
Yeah. That is good. But yeah, there's like so many different ways to train. That cycles back to the Olympics. It's like knowing like all these different ways to train and like how far you can push your body and do all these things. And that's all through like technology because like people had no idea before like how far can you push your body. You might think you're tired, but you might not be tired. Because it's just shit's in
Not
your
so much that you can't put more in, right?
yeah. And so when you have things where it's like literally showing you like there's some times where like so today like I was on doing my ride. I did like my first Tabata and I was doing like maybe like 50% resistance and I was just like, you know what? Like I didn't feel like doing it, but I was like, no, just push it a little bit more. Just a couple percentages more. Just to like obviously I'm not feeling it, but I'm just gonna push it in my body. I looked at my heart rate. I'm like, I can push harder. You know what I mean? Like stop being a bitch. You can push harder.
Yeah. Like I usually track heart rate while I'm running. That's kind of one of my main focuses. So I try to stay right at a fat burn heart rate. And there'll be moments where exactly like that. I'm like climbing some hill or moving somewhere. And like there's a little bit of incline. I'm like, God, this sucks. Like I could just tell that like I feel like this is the most I can possibly do.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, look at my watch, check my heart rate. It's like 134.
Yeah.
I can go faster. So I'm like, push a little bit harder and then finish cresting that hill and then work my way towards the downhill check. I'm like, okay, yeah, I put a little more work in. I appreciate that. But yeah, it's like you don't realize it sometimes. It feels like you're working so hard, and your body and your mind aren't in sync with each other. So.
Yeah.
Did you ever? Is there any event? And this can be, I guess, our closing out. Is there any event like you think, if you had started early enough or knew more about it, like you would have liked to do, and it would have been a Summer Olympics event? Now that you know, kind of like how we were as far as fitness and athletes.
Like that I would have competed in.
Yeah, like if you had started, say, like most of these people who are competing at this level started when they were kids.
Yeah.
So if you had known, like, this is a thing that I would have loved to do back then and could have gotten started in it, like, young, what event would that be? Like, what would be something cool with the Olympics you'd want to do?
Well, I wanted to be a sprinter when I was young. So I ran a 4.4 40-yard dash with no training. I broke the school record. I broke my brother's record in high school. But I was like, I had like no motivation because I saw like the look in people's eyes when they saw me like doing athletic things, like with like coaches, and they like wanted me to do like things, and I just didn't like the pressure that it put on me. That's actually one of the reasons why I joined the Marine Corps, is because I probably could have just like every year I got asked to go to play football. I'm like, no. I did track for a little bit. But I didn't like really training because I didn't like the pressure of people wanting me to do these things for them and like just to like entertain them, and I wasn't feeling it. But I was definitely like I was a good athlete. I just didn't want to do it for somebody else. But yeah, I definitely could have been a highly competitive sprinter because I was pretty fast, and like even for like certain distances I was like pretty fast too. Like I used to run. When I was like a really young kid, I ran a 5:30 mile. So, and I definitely, with no training, I could have definitely improved upon like all that shit. But I didn't like that pressure of like somebody just wanted to use my body. It's just like, it didn't feel right to me, man. So, what about you?
Now we're older and we want someone to use our body.
Yeah, so in a whole different way.
Yeah, so like I think for me, so when I did track, and which most of the events for those who don't do U.S. track, like, because I don't know if other countries do their like high school level sports the same way, so track would like cover as much as it does in the U.S., which is kind of weird. Like I was all over the place, but I still feel like going back, a couple of the jumping events and a couple of the throwing events I really enjoyed the most. I really liked javelin. Like I threw the javelin in high school and loved the shit out of that. Like just there's a certain amount of form and like finesse and like, but still power. Like there's still strength there. Like you have to be strong, but you also have to hit the like the run and the steps and the like the form to it all. So I felt like unlike discus and hammer throw and a couple of others, where it's like you can kind of get away with just being strong at some of those, and like there's very little more form to it you need to learn. Javelin, like I kind of felt like because I did all of them, and it really felt like javelin was like this is actually a lot more about being very specific and like practicing and getting your form just right to it. And that's the same way I did long jump and high jump also. I'm short, so I mean high jump didn't last that long. But I could long jump pretty far because then that kind of came to actually like just still continuing that explosive forward movement, which came into play when I was running 110s, hurdles, I was running 110, so I was kind of doing sprinting stuff too. But then I felt like I kind of translated that over the second year towards the other events that weren't just running, because I don't know, probably just because I was like, that sounds fun. Because that's how you kind of are in high school, right? And turned that into like, if I run really fast and then explode, I can jump far. So then with the javelin, same deal. If you have a good sprint and then get the form piece, you can throw farther. So it was combining kind of the two things and making it more interesting to me.
Yeah.
I could see doing either one of those still, maybe long jump or if I was doing javelin, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. Just, I mean, getting in the Olympics for anything would be dope. So.
Yeah, to know that you're competing on this like global level, like how cool is that?
And also, if you're young and single, you can fuck a lot of people. I'm just saying, nobody talks about it, but there's a lot of sex going on. Normally for the Olympics, there's a lot of sex going on.
Hold on, you say no one's talking about it. Let me see if there's any articles. Actually, I'm not going to Google search for that.
Well, no, there is, because they're complaining about the beds. They were saying that there were beds that would discourage sex. That's what people thought. But I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, if you really want to do it, you just do it on the floor. Like, what? Like, you don't need a bed. Because apparently they're using like cardboard beds, and it was just like the actual bed frame was like cardboard, but like they had a mattress, and it's like you don't need to have like, if you need a specific area to have sex on, in that place only, you didn't want to have sex enough. I'm just saying, it's my own personal opinion.
Yeah.
So.
And like I've slept in a lot of Japanese hotels, their mattresses are pretty freaking firm, so it's kind of hard. Like, so I could see it being a discouragement, but that's not good.
Yeah, if you're horny enough, I'm just saying, let's get it done.
The wall looks good, the counter seems good, the table looks all right, the desk would definitely work.
Yes, you'll be all right.
Yeah, you'll be fine. You figure it out. All right. I think that wraps it up.
Yeah, I think that was a good topic. I think the main takeaway: use the Olympics to be more altruistic. Help people out.
There's a big opportunity there, right? And I think that those organizations are going to be resistant to it for a bunch of reasons, like it just being changed because people are resistant to change. But someone's going to see that as a potential loss of revenue and be hesitant to do so.
That's the unfortunate part of when you talk about loss of revenue. It's usually loss of profit, right? And that's the whole issue with like capitalism. That's the problem. Like, I think we need a capitalism 2.0, and part of it needs to be just better with like helping people and not just helping a small subsection of people like gain their wealth. Like, just spread that shit around a little bit. I'm not saying let's be communist and let's be socialist. No, I'm not going anywhere near that far, but we could definitely do a whole lot more to end poverty in the world. We could do it right now pretty easily if we just shared some of the profits, because the profits are literally wage theft. So just spread it around.
Yeah. Appreciate hanging out and talking to me.
Yeah, thanks again, man. Have a good night.
Yeah.
Later.
You too. Bye. Okay, what were you talking about? Like, I walked in and you were talking. I was just
bullshitting because I figured this is like the Patreon stuff, right? So might as well talk about something.
we can cut that or something. Like, I don't know. Yeah. They'll see that we got to be real. Once I'm like, I'll be right back.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I know it's supposed to be my topic, but I've like flip-flopped a few times. I had an idea, and then now I'm also exhausted today. So I want to try to pick one that's going to be like energizing too. Like sometimes I think of these and it's like it feels like, Sorry, I was trying to find where I had.
Yeah, we could use some energy. So I'm kind of tired too. My body battery is sitting at 25%. So
yeah.